Welcome to another episode of Unapologetic with Eric King on WOVU 95.9 FM. Today we got a very special show. As you all know, this is the third Wednesday of the month, and you know that's our Brother to Brother Wednesday. That's when we go from the barbershop to the mics, which is kind of weird because we do have someone here who is an entrepreneur, who is an investor, who is a just all around just a man of the community in my brother Rob. Before I jump him in, I do want to say what's up to my man Ivra. What's going on, Ivra?
Good to be here, as always.
As always. Okay. And so, as you know, this is our time, Dorian. You know, he's not here. So we got to, give him some props for that. He out doing his thing. But I do want to bring in my man, the number one stunner out there in the community. He is from around here. He is from Garden Valley. He is as I said, an entrepreneur. He is a investor, a leader, and all those things, man. What's going on, man? Welcome back to the house.
All right. Thank you. This is my second time here.
Yeah.
I appreciate it the first time, but I'm ecstatic to be here for the second time.
Yeah. So as I said, you are an individual that's here and you got all of these barbershops going on. So you do have, something special, for the people. You first started off in Canton, came up to Akron. I know later on we'll get into it, but, tell us a little bit about your scholarships and what you got to offer to the Levels, barber school.
Levels Cleveland, we tried to give away 20 scholarships, but we had other organizations there that helped with a bunch of the funding. And so we still have anywhere from 8 to 12, $16,000 scholarships that pay 100% of the tuition. If anybody want to reach out, I know that we're going to give the information at the end. But if anybody is needed a second career change or have a felony or dropped out of high school, we take 8th grade education up. Any type of felony, I can get it approved by a judge with just my signature. Just reach out.
Do your thing, bro. Do your thing. All right. And then we got George. Come on back up to the mic. I know you just got off your overnight, man. How you doing?
I'm making it, my brother.
You making it? He got the soft talk and everything. I'm gonna have to turn him up. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother.
So you got all your superlatives as well. You are a minister as well as a officer of the law. Are you a detective now, or?
I'm a sergeant. I'm a road
sergeant. Okay. So you got stripes and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So as you know, where you minister at again?
I am one of the elders at Hope City Church on Shaker Heights.
Okay, Hope City Church. And so shout out. So as you know, this is Brother to Brother. And so this is where we get together and we just talk about just overall. Before we jump into it, because the first thing that we do, we always try to get to know the people that come on. So, bruh, you are an individual. I'm talking to Rob right now. You are an individual who has decided to be an icon in the hair industry, right? Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, you're very quiet about the things you did. As you know, I'm not sure if anybody recognize him. Right, because he's quiet. He's quiet about what he's doing. Tell us about how you got started on your journey and why are you so quiet in your journey?
Started by failing, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
Of course, failed at the University of Akron at first. I failed, but I wound up
we all did. We all did. At least I did. I don't know about George.
I did too.
Okay.
It happens. So failed at the University of Akron. Just failed that I was in the military. I kept getting in trouble in the military. And that became a hurdle also.
Just the theme.
Just a bunch of hurdles that I kept failing at. And this one day, I was at home. Me and a couple of my frat brothers, we had to get ready to move out. Mm-hmm. Well, we got kicked out.
I was about to say, y'all, if I remember the house, y'all got kicked out, bro.
Yeah. So we sitting on the floor. Well, I'm sitting on the floor getting ready to move my things out. And it was I listened to the radio and this pastor had said, if you're if you're not doing something you love, or it's a quote, if you're doing something like that you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And it was on a radio.
Right.
And at the time, I wasn't going to church or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Pastor Vernon. And after that day I'm like, man, let me just go to church.
Pastor R.A.
Right. And so I just went to church. And after that, I listened that quote, I love to get my hair cut.
Right.
And what guy doesn't? But I was literally catching a bus from Akron all the way up here to Cleveland to get my hair cut in Southgate.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that till just now.
Yeah.
But, and I'm like, you know, what do I got to lose?
Yeah.
And so I went to barber school, and I couldn't afford to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And it was a scholarship. The barber school was BEBC in Akron, Ohio. And he had a scholarship to go to school. And the scholarship was you had to write something about somebody that impacted your life. Mm-hmm. And a week prior before that, my grandmother had passed away. Mm-hmm. And I wrote the scholarship about her. And that's how I got into school.
Gotcha.
So now, 2 weeks ago, we gave out 20 scholarships to attend the new schools in Southgate, and it was only because of that situation.
Yeah.
So all the schools give back scholarships only because of
what you went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the quiet thing is, I just don't like to be seen.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
No, because a lot of times we believe that in order to get things done, we got to be extra loud, right? We got to be extra loud. Now, what's interesting, did you just realize you just came full circle?
Yeah, I
just like did you catch that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you just came full circle.
I didn't think about it until I was just talking.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just talking.
Just came full circle. You got anything?
No, man, I'm vibing on this today.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk.
You just woke up.
No, you know what? Not just woke up. I've been on Zoom meetings all day.
Yeah.
Getting some stuff taken care of for work. So,
okay.
Yeah.
George, come back up to the mic before you fall asleep over there.
leaning to the left a little.
So you are also an individual that, I met at the University of Akron, right? You said that you failed as well, right? You didn't go to school or University of Akron in order to be a police officer, did you? So why is a black man a police officer?
Correct. The funny thing about that is, deep down inside, I always wanted to be a police officer. Mm-hmm. But just like you said, not many people actually start a scholastic career, choose to go to college so that they could go on the law enforcement. Right. I think growing up as a young man in the city of Cleveland, a young black man in the city of Cleveland, if you have aspirations to go into law enforcement, somewhere along the lines, that's probably going to fade away.
Yep.
So I'm sure I'm not the only person that would say, as a young child, they wanted to be a police officer. Mm-hmm. You think it's cool to be a police officer when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But when you grow up on St. Clair, mm-hmm. you see, you end up seeing the world differently.
Right.
I think that we are somewhat, we are taught to have a negative view of police. Mm-hmm. And that's for multiple reasons. We've got to be honest about it in all aspects and understand that some of those reasons come from the history that black people have with law enforcement. Right. Some of those reasons come from the actions of black people. Right. That bring law enforcement into our lives. Right. So, we've got to look at it from all aspects. But I did, it went away. I was on my way to the military. Yeah. A few things happened in my life. My grandfather passed away my senior year in high school, and I felt like I couldn't leave home. Gotcha. So I decided to stay. Last ditch effort, start putting in college applications at the very last minute. Ended up at the University of Akron. Yeah. But I ended up. It took me much longer than the traditional college student to earn my degree. So,
both. The concept of failure. Ivra, you got anything about that?
No, I mean, so getting through school is monumental. Yeah. And so I don't know that I as a young person, we don't necessarily think about the fact that going through 5 years or 6 years,
right,
But
10.
getting across the finish line. Getting across the finish line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At whatever point it happens, however long it takes, as long as you know that you're not going to give up.
Yeah. The idea of failure, a lot of times, especially in working with a lot of Black men, they never had the concept that failure is an option. And so what I hear from at least, Rod and George, failure is the thing that actually brought you to something. And it also happened with me as well. When you sit back and you think about, now everything, hindsight is always 20/20 and rosy. At that moment when you thought about failure or you were failing in that moment, how uncomfortable were you and how embarrassed were you at that present moment?
Oh, super.
Yeah, you want.
Oh, yeah, super uncomfortable. Embarrassed. A hit to your pride, your ego. You think everybody's watching. You think everybody's laughing at you. You're like, I gotta do something. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably illegal or it's scamming or something. You gotta get some dough. I gotta get some dough.
Yeah.
But, them hurdles, but I'm going to give an example.
Yeah.
The students at the Barber College, their first day of school, if they cut hair before or if they haven't cut hair before, they on the floor cutting hair. No matter if they very first day they cut hair. Right. And it's only because I want them to mess up. And if they mess up, they'll never do it again. It can never get worse than that first day.
Yeah.
And so because of those hurdles I went through and I failed and I messed up or still messing up.
Right.
I want them to fail on their first day just so they can know, like, all right, it can't get no worse. Right. They sweating, they tearing people up, right. It don't get worse than that hurdle.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier for the 10-month program for them to get through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And it's that, what you got?
I was going to say, that's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, it's that adversity.
I love it.
That builds, at times build character, but at times we can be sometimes too hard and wallow too hard in our failure to where we believe that that's where we at. George, when you was talking about I failed out or failure, or being a failure, when you look back now, at that apex or that moment, what were some of the things that went through your head when you figured out you had to figure out something different?
Well, one thing I could say, if I could just revert back to the question that was formulated for Ryan.
You want to answer his question?
No, I want to.
No, go ahead.
His answer was so brilliant that I can't let it go. Seriously.
No, go ahead, man.
It's when you initially asked the question, how long did it take you? The first thing that popped in my head was too long. And that's the reason why it took me so long to finish school.
Yeah.
Because it's not that I just felt like my education wasn't important. It was just I hadn't really learned how to prioritize things yet.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one thing as a man. Life kind of teaches you how to prioritize. So when your circumstances change, there are things that you have to do to make sure that you understand what success really means for you. Success doesn't look the same for everybody.
What it means specifically for you.
Exactly. Gotcha. Specifically for you. So I was blessed. I was blessed to find my wife very, very young. Me and my wife have been together for 28 years. So we've been together since high school.
Yep.
So we got married at age 21. And when we hit what became the first end of, of my college career.
Right.
First, I realized, okay, I got a family now. I got to make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to take care of my family. So I just literally pushed college to the side. I felt like it wasn't important anymore.
Right.
Not really realizing that eventually, like, I've got to finish this thing.
Yeah.
You know, because I started it. If I'm having a child, I need to be able to show my son that whatever you start, you finish.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times I tell that same story, and I don't know if you have that same story. So my oldest son is 25. When he was born in 1999, I mean, both, George, and Rob may know this. I left University of Akron. I had been there. I had a name, at University of Akron. I left and I was ghost, and I had to leave in order for me to actually build up and be the type of person that I needed to be. So that idea of family, and I need to do something for family, is a hell of a motivator. What about you, Ivra, before we jump on this break?
Well, the idea of failing doesn't end, because I'm in the middle of one right now as I start to add financial planning to my practice. And that Series 7 that just put me on the wash cycle.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
No, but it's, as we're talking about failing, being 50 something and failing hard, you know what I mean? And I put 130 hours of study in and got on the internet and took the practice exams and 135 questions 5 times and so on and so forth. And then to go in and still be short by a pretty good margin.
Right.
There was no, I was only 2 away. No, I was not close.
Yeah.
And so I think what we have to remember is that we are equipped with the knowledge of what it requires to get through these hurdles, regardless of what they are.
Yeah.
And so instead of me going back and being online, I'm going to go back and find an online series instructor, an instructor-led class. So because I need to be able to dialogue. I learn old school. I was
going to say it's generational, brother.
I need to talk through some of these things that I don't understand, these concepts that I need to grasp. And so we have to understand that failure is only temporary.
Yeah.
And it can only be your detriment to the point to which you allow it.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. And then go ahead.
Well, the coolest thing about that, though, is somebody younger than me or anybody else, they get to see, like, dang, at 50, at 60, at 40, bro, I still can do something dope. I still can go back to class. I'm still going to be messing up, and I still can come out of that storm. So it's kind of cool. So somebody is watching.
Yeah. Because, you don't recognize, your testimony until somebody walks up to you. But right now you've been a testimony to somebody, because failure is a ever going process, and it's an ever learning process. So on the other side, we're going to get a little bit back into community and how we as individuals can make an impact in the community. But we're going to take a quick break and come back on the other side. All right. So this is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM.
It's about men in America. White men don't trust white women in leadership. The data showed us. Latino men don't trust Latino women in leadership. The data showed us. Black men do not struggle with black women in leadership. The data showed us, because overwhelmingly black men voted for Kamala Harris. And even in 2016, the only race of men to overwhelmingly vote for Hillary Clinton were black men. There's constantly a narrative about black men. And yes, there are black men with their egos on their sleeves. Yes, there are black men chasing proximity to whiteness and a bag. But the majority of black men, unlike other races of men, are not chasing just a bag, but we are considering our humanity and yours. And what's it?
All right, welcome back. Unapologetic. That was a little blurb. Credit to let's see who my man's name is. He is Greg Chambers Jr. on Instagram. So I'm only going to spend a little short time on this subject, and I'm only broaching it because last time we were all together, or Ivra was here, we talked a little bit about the election and the narrative that black men do not or will not support Kamala Harris. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. First, before we jump into it, Ivra, did you have anything that you want to say about the blurb?
Mr. Chambers, man, I love that dude.
Yeah.
He spits facts.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm going to keep this one brief. I refuse to allow anybody else to tell me that I do or do not support black folks, period. Mm-hmm. Because I know what we do as a collective.
Right. Go ahead, Rob.
I agree with what he said. Just because it's not shown or just because it's not publicized doesn't mean that you're not supporting or helping in your own way.
Right.
for example, Kamala in 4 or 5 months, she almost won. I mean, how amazing is that? You know, it's just a beautiful thing. So we support in our own way.
Yeah. You got something, George?
I think when we talk about supporting Black people, supporting one another, just like we talked about earlier, like what does support look like to you? What does support mean?
Right.
Does that mean that I'm going to support you simply because you're Black? Because if that's the case, then it's a possibility I could support you to my detriment. If you're doing something purposely that's going to cause me harm, am I supposed to continue to support you just because you're Black? And vice versa. If you're going to help me and I know you're going to help me, you've made it clear that you're going to help me. Am I not going to support you if you're not Black? So I think it's just that it's a multifaceted issue when we ask one another, do we support, the efforts of another Black person? What are we doing? I think we've got to ask that question before we do anything else. What exactly are we doing?
Yeah. The idea that most of our struggles, and I'm just going to look at it from a cultural standpoint, most of our struggles in America has fallen way more on Black women than they have Black men. With that said, because this is a male-dominated culture, we are expected to actually be the head and the forefront in things moving forward. So if we piggyback this on our community, right? So when we're looking at what we're going to do for the next 4 years or what we're going to do in the next 40 minutes, we still, no matter what happens, we are Black men. And being Black men, there's a community outside our doors that need our help. Now, Rod, and I'm going to go with you first. You are an individual that is here and located here and grew up here where the studio is, but you started your career and you started your monies and how you got your monies in a whole nother community. What are you going to bring back to this community in order to, I guess, more or less support? Now, some people don't feel as though they need to bring anything back, but I'm not sure, how you feel about that.
To answer your question, my time, my talents, and my treasures. In order for levels to work or anything that I have going on to work is, in my heart, I feel that it only happens or the wheels only turn is when I give back. The scholarships, free haircuts, the haircuts for the veteran services, haircuts we do high schools, middle schools, homeless shelters, anything you can think of, we probably do free haircuts all over the state. We did stuff for the Cavs, the Browns, LeBron James. The only way this thing works or is going because we give from our heart. We give our time. We'll be at a homeless shelter on Monday. We give our talents. They're practicing. They are learning, but the homeless shelters, like you said, they got 60 people that need haircuts. Well, my students are getting something out of it because they're getting practice. Right. And we're giving back also because we're helping these homeless people get free haircuts. Our time and our talent. And then give back. I mean, the only way money, I think, comes to my life is when I give it away. Gotcha. And so I try to give it away to people that really need it. And it always comes back 10, 20, 30 different ways. Right. And I'm like, man.
Press down, shaking up.
Yeah.
So George, when we look at some of the rhetoric that is going on, right? I think everyone, Rod, you married? No. Everyone here is married and been married over 10 years. Is that about right? Yep. When we look at the rhetoric on places that are louder, as well as places that are a little bit more boisterous than what, we are, so to speak. Why do you think we're not stressing the importance of the Black family? Why are we constantly dividing between the sexes, especially in our community, because that's not something within our community that we stand on. It was never an instance that we're going to push forward one gender or not. It was literally the only way, especially in America, that we can build wealth and we can build substance is by both of us doing it. Why do you think the rhetoric is separating rather than bringing it together?
I think the truth of the matter is that that's what the design was from the beginning. That in all honesty, slavery did what it was supposed to do. The initial concept was separate the man from the woman, ultimately separating the man from the family. Now, to look well beyond that, we look in today's society. It's almost incentivized for the male to not be in the home. Yeah. And unfortunately, from a cultural standpoint, I think sometimes we don't necessarily see that. We just see what we think is a positive as to what we're able to get as long as we're not together. Now, if you want to look at that from the standpoint of government assistance, welfare, they're not going to give you any assistance if you need it as a single mother. Right. If there's an able-bodied man in your home. Right. And unfortunately, culture has kind of taken a foothold of that. And culture has said, it's great to be a strong Black woman. Absolutely. It's absolutely great to be a strong Black woman. But I think that we need to redefine the way culture says that. And we don't want culture any longer to say, it's great to be a single Black mother. We want to give kudos to the single Black mother. I was raised by a single Black mother. Strong. Strong Black woman. But at the same time, we want our future women to understand that you are so much better if you do have that man in the home and you all are working together. Honestly, we've got to go back to the foundation. The foundation is the fact that the concept of family, that is God's original institution. The very first institution that was put into place was that of marriage, a man and his wife being given to him, fashioned specifically for him, taken from his rib. Right. So we got to understand how important it is for us to be able to see what it is that God wanted us to do when he saw that it was not good, that man should be alone. That is something that was meant to be forever. Yeah. I think the trope of the strong, and Ivra, I want you to jump in on this, the strong anything, independent anything, I think has been a detriment. I think it's I've never heard of a strong white woman or a strong white male. I've never heard of a strong any other, race or culture or whatever. And I think this idea or where this has come from has overtaken what it actually meant. What it literally means is there's a level, or in order for, the culture of most Black and brown individuals to move forward, it was a strength, and it fell to the woman because the men were getting killed if they opened up their mouth. And so that went on all the way up until the 80s, to where they started, or 70s, when they started kicking men out of the house for public assistance that you're actually talking about, right? That's systematic. So in my opinion, I think that we've bastardized this concept of strong anything, especially when it follows a gender or a race. What's your thoughts on that?
But let us not forget that Black women, the demographic of Black women are the most educated among Americans, period. And so when we take that and understand that as the first foundational fact, then we can support Black women in their endeavors. And then in turn, they can support us. And that's how we move forward. I think we have to remember that, like George was saying, as a unit, whatever your unit is going to be, that's how you find strength. And I think oftentimes we will be a little hesitant to be supportive of a strong woman, because a lot of us feel that it takes away from our strength and our prowess and the ego, the insecurity. Yeah. But if we can understand that when she does better and we do better, we do better. Yeah. And we don't have to be, it doesn't matter. It's not taking away from me when you do well. If I extend my hand and light your candle, doesn't mean that mine is going to go out.
Yeah. Yeah. That idea that, you need to be, and once again, it was only in one socioeconomic area and one racial or cultural area where it says you need to separate in order to move up. When you're looking at the way that you were brought up, Rob, what was it like understanding what women was and their impact to your growth as a young Black man?
My mom and my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I lived up the street in the project. Well, my mom and my sister. My mom went to work every day, 2 jobs. We went to school, come home. My sister probably made me a bacon sandwich or some quick to eat.
Yeah.
And so it was them growing up until, thank God I moved over here. Had a neighbor, Mr. Moss. He had a traditional family. He was married, he had his wife, and then 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go over there every day for the whole summer.
Yeah.
They took me, I played my first sport. They took me to see the point. They was paying for everything. And so I saw, I don't want to call it dysfunction with my family.
Disconnection.
Disconnection.
Yeah, I got you.
Disconnection, yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw that side, but that side taught me how to play spades.
Mm-hmm.
That side taught me how to, maneuver a little different. And then on the other side with my neighbors, Mall family, they said, they showed me leadership and integrity. And so I saw both sides. So to answer your question with my mom, like amazing job, which she could, but I saw both sides, and that's what taught me.
Yeah.
I feel right. I don't want to say negative positive.
Yeah, was interesting. I had that same experience. So I grew up in a single parent household. The only married couples that I saw were the Gogginses, right? Mm-hmm. So Walter Goggins, everybody know my best friend G. He'd been with me since I think 7th grade. I would leave my house and I would go over to his house, and he had, dad was there, mom was there. He was the middle child. He had an older sister and a younger brother. So there was a concept of collectivism, and I saw what they did, right? I saw how they worked, and I saw how they carried themselves. Now I know, Ivra, you grew up in a different situation, right? You had a nuclear family. When you were looking at and understanding, because you have a daughter, in understanding that I have to raise a girl as a man, and seeing certain things, how things are right now, and seeing the way that the community is, what are some fears you have in raising that daughter in the community, or how things are right now?
All of it. All of it.
What is it?
Every last piece of it. No, having 2 daughters, and knowing that I have a daughter that's going to be a Black woman walking and maneuvering in this space is terrifying.
Yeah.
But what I have to keep in mind is that she's smart, and she understands how things are, and she's starting to understand, I should say. And so for my younger one, we're going to have to do the same thing. Make sure that she continues to prioritize that educational piece and development. And I think I'm sitting here thinking about community, and how do we bring that in, full circle. You guys had those folks that you were able to go and move with. And so for us, it's important because that's one of the things my grandfather did, my dad did. Right. And that was just bringing folks into the house. I remember my Uncle Milton, dad's homie.
Did you see his face though? He was like, Milton, I don't know if I should tell this story.
Uncle Milton. And he lived upstairs for a while.
Community.
So, community. And so we've done that in our house right now in Chagrin. So, and we've done it in our other. So bringing people in, and that's how you start. I think foundationally, you have to be open to opening your doors for folks. That's how, and it's uncomfortable.
I think, hold on right quick. Go ahead.
Without community, I don't think I would, be the person that I am. Of course, thank God first, but the fights in Garden Valley, the going to the store and getting penny candy up the street, breaking glass on port, getting chased by the dog on Sideway, skipping school at East Tech, that stuff taught me so much on how to maneuver. Getting caught stealing out of the store, all right, bro, what am I doing? It's not life. Just getting in so much trouble. And because of my mom, we couldn't afford to move elsewhere, so we moved over here. I never would have met that second family.
Yeah.
And it's, I love it over here, but I love it, but because of community, kind of taught me her hurdles.
Yeah.
Taught me. So
taught you.
Kinda,
yeah. Cool. And so George, you got a daughter as well, right? You see the community different, right? So as a police officer and seeing the community different, what is it like raising a daughter while seeing the community from both sides of the quote unquote fence?
You know what? I think raising children all together in this society is eye opening. When I do get to see every aspect of society, I see people at their worst, at their absolute worst.
That's what my dad used to say.
And police officers, we go through these things. We see the worst out of people so that the general public doesn't have to, so seeing what people go through, seeing how people respond to situations, seeing how people seeing people's behaviors. Yeah, it is. It can be scary if I let it be scary. To be honest with you, I'm often reminded that I take the experiences that I have at work and I try to transfer them to my children and let them know these are the things that are happening. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm not talking about emotions. I'm telling you what's real. Yeah. So I think that the more we actually take our experiences, whether we're talking about our experiences growing up, I try to relay those things to, my kids, how life was growing up. But I'm going to be honest, it's hard doing that because culture's 100% different.
I was just going to say that because you got to add that part in. I'm Gen X, you Gen X. Right, y'all one up underneath us.
I'm one under,
Yeah, one under. What is it, millennium? The concept of culture cannot be transferable by our understanding of culture because it's totally different. If we can piggyback off of that, what George said, the concept of being different. Now we're the elders, right? So George is an elder. We're all actually elders right now. And I just realized that we were the ones that were supposed to actually, move the pendulum forward. We were the ones supposed to set up the family reunions, the barbecues and this and that. And my wife and I was talking about it. It hit me what got in our way. What I remember getting in our way was the drug epidemic. And a lot of the drug epidemic short-circuited to where we had to grow up a different way. Now it's a different time. So if we're going to heal or look to heal our communities, what are some ways that you can see now, taking what you had in the past, while understanding you are the elder right now, and you are the ones, everyone sitting at a mic right now, we're the ones that was supposed to have the family reunions. We're the ones that was supposed to set up the barbecues. All of you all, while we were failing and supposed to get here, previous generations didn't go through this. They did what they had to do, get through and moved on. While we were failing, we were behind. What are your thoughts on that?
Let us not forget or let us not ignore objective truths. And that's one of the things that I think people need to seek out more often than we do is the objective truth. If there are corporations today that benefit still from enslaving the Black folks, why would it not be a detriment to those that were enslaved?
No,
so we need to give ourselves, we have
to
give ourselves a little bit of grace and understand that what we do in a lot of cases is survival. That's straight up survival.
Yeah. First level.
Flat out. Yeah.
First level.
And so let's look at these things objectively and then we can understand and share our gifts.
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
The only way I make money is to give it away.
Yeah.
But that's where you may not be acknowledging the objectivity of what's happening around, but kind of in the back door, he is.
Yeah.
Because objectively, we need these things in order to make the future better for the kids.
In order to move forward. Because we are the elders. What you got? Who want to jump on that one?
it's a hard concept when we talk about, because what we're talking about is growth.
Yeah.
Right.
Maturity, growth, all that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one thing that we have definitely suffered from in our demographic, or we'll say in the Black community, is our growth has been stunted. Mm-hmm. And it's been, we've taken it from so many different areas. When we talk about systemic racism, when we talk about, let's be real, we got to be honest about this. We have to look at it from the standpoint of, have we allowed our culture to curve us to a downward trend?
Downward trend.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, we look at, who do we accept as our leaders? Your leaders are who are going to send you in the direction that you're going. So if we are choosing our leaders based on how well they entertain us, they're going to continue to send us into the wrong direction. So we've got to understand that, being an elder, you have a responsibility to make sure that those under you are going in the right direction. You shouldn't be looking to be comfortable yourself as a leader.
Yeah.
You're taking the brunt of, you're basically the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
So you're going to have first impact.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure that we are showing those that are behind us, we'll absorb this so that you can benefit from it. So every change that we're looking to make, we have to have that in mind.
I think and I'm going to bounce this over to Rod. I think the scariest part is this has always been a relay, right? So life has always been a relay. When we look at generational wealth, when we look at community building, when we look at life building, when we look at passing down certain things, it has always been a relay, right? And when we look at it from a relay standpoint, to bring in George's point and also look at this idea of actual truth, there's been so many things that had gotten in the way of passing that baton. And what I've noticed, and I'm going to ask, Rod, if you notice this too, there's very few individuals still looking to pass the baton forward because maybe they weren't taught, or maybe they're not ready to let it go because they felt as though they was robbed of the opportunity to run that race. What do you think?
I think, yeah.
You're back on the mic.
I'm sorry. I think it's a lot of people aren't taught. A lot of people don't know, which is, again, in my opinion, it's no excuse. Mm-hmm. It's smartphones. Yeah. It's smart for a reason. Mm-hmm. Some people, lack of care. They don't care. Lack of just being that or having that confidence to give it away.
Right.
If I know it and I don't know how to give it to my son or teach my son or lead my son or everybody around me, right, it's going in one direction and I'm following them also, we about to all jump over a cliff. Mm-hmm. So I might not have the confidence to give it away. Mm-hmm. Do I want to give it to these people? I might make them fail. Right. I don't want to give it away.
Right.
I think it's so many different things that can go into that, but ultimately, I think it's lack of care.
Gotcha.
It's lack of having that heart, and it's lack of trying. My student, I know I keep going back to my students, but in order for me to talk and teach my students, in my head, I make each one of them look like my son. Mm-hmm. Even if we're having a conversation, hey, you keep looking away when I talk to you. Right. Look at me in my eyes. Right. Hey, when you shake my hand. Right. When he walked in, he shook my hand real hard, firm grip. Right. So I teach each person as if they're my son. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Mm-hmm. Every single student has to say, yes, Mr. Dennis, my last name. And they have to say the same thing to each person. But it's only because I was taught that, and I have the confidence to teach somebody else and the heart to give it away. So I think it's so many different things that are, it's not just one thing. Yeah. And somebody got to be willing to try too. Yeah. It got to be there.
Yeah. We got to take a quick break. On the other side, we got this call to action. You fell asleep over there, George. We got to get this call to action going on. So we're gonna come back, call to action. We're gonna play a couple promos, and then we're gonna close out. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Shout out to Burton Bell Carr, always doing something for the community, giving away those turkeys, and everybody out there that's doing big things for the community. community. Let's keep it up. Before we close out, we got about 10 more minutes until the show. But in this segment, we always give solutions. Right? You can't do absolutely anything without having any type of solution. But before we do that, let's give some information out, right? Tell the people how they can communicate with you.
levelsbarberschool.com, because I was about to say my cell phone number. I had to think about that. levelsbarberschool.com, Instagram, Levels Above You, the website, Levels on Google. My phone number is actually on that too. So if you want to reach out, you can find me. I'm easy to find. Canton Levels, now Southgate Levels or Cleveland Levels. Just come up to the school. And I have about 5 scholarships remaining. So if anybody is interested, just reach out. I have 5 remaining. So if you ever thought about going to barber school or beauty school, just come out. And last thing, Ohio Jobs and Family Services helps with funding for people that, want to go to school. Ohioans with disabilities, they will help people to go to school. If you ever had any trauma, ADHD as a kid, any terrible, just about anything you can get funding for school.
Good deal.
And so that's why we have scholarships remaining, because everybody else was approved for all the other
for all the rest of us.
Yeah. So we have anybody got a felony, need a second chance, dropped out of high school maybe, or just looking for a career change, just reach out.
Got you. Yeah. George, at the church house, you want to give some information where they can come and go for it?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an ordained minister. I'm one of the elders at Hope City Church, Cleveland. We're located at 3688 Lee Road. Our senior pastor is Pastor Sheldon Combs. We've been on that corner for quite some time. However, Hope City Church, Cleveland we've been there for 5 years. God changed our name a few years back, and we're moving forward. So anyone who's looking for spiritual guidance, you're in the Lee Harvard area, Shaker Heights, please come through. We don't want anyone to feel like they're too far away from the Lord's hands. The Lord's hands extend everywhere. I also have my ministry, JHS Ministry. We are a discipleship and family-oriented ministry. So we are working, we're an upstart ministry. We're looking to mentor those that are looking to have a hand walk with them in this Jesus walk.
Good. Yeah. Ivra, you got something you want to give or no?
Man, always think about that life insurance, 216-714-1750. Yeah, it's just, it's a matter of having a plan and executing that plan. Life insurance is the one way that you can make sure that all of your plans for your children and your children's children get taken care of.
The interesting part is life insurance is a misnomer. They think it's just for death. You can actually use it while you're alive.
Just like
it's life.
Yes. Like my kids will go to college.
Yes, living insurance. All right. So let's put a bow on this. We got about 6 minutes. We got to get to solutions. We talked about community. We talked about failure. We talked about uplifting. We also talked that we are the elders and we are the ones that are supposed to be actually having the baton and passing it forward to those that can carry the race on. So, in this short period of time, let's be as stingy with time as possible. Who wants to start off with some solutions, like 2 to 3 solutions? Who wants to go first? Go for it.
Earlier today, somebody has said a quote to me. He said, "You have the power to control how others affect you, and no one can truly hurt or harm you without your consent." Somebody said that to me earlier, Brother King. You control how people treat you. Your no's are your no's. Your yeses are your yeses. It's okay to say no.
That's James. That's James.
It's okay to, no, I can't make it to this event. No, I can't give you $30. No, I can't be there. Right. It is okay. people is going to treat you how you let them treat you.
Got you. George, what you got?
Everything for me, the foundation goes back to God. If I have to say anything, just understand that as you go through life, you are being discipled. You're being discipled by somebody. Somebody. We got to understand as Black people, our culture disciples us.
Yeah.
We absolutely let our culture disciple us. And we've got to understand that as God's creation, his intent was for us to be discipled to him.
Yeah.
We look at the closest people to Jesus. He had his 12 that were close to him. One of them was a traitor. He didn't push him away until he did what it was that he was supposed
that he needed to do. That he was supposed to do.
It was necessary. But also understand that not just those 12 were being discipled. Everyone he spoke to was being discipled. Yeah. So we got to understand that as we walk through life, we're responsible for discipling that next generation. Yeah. So we have to be willing to pour into them. And we've got to be cognizant of what it is that we're pouring out.
Yeah. What about you?
I love the discussion of culture.
Yeah.
And if we can look back at our culture, we understand that the church has always been a part of our culture. And I think as we evolve into becoming who we are in 2024, 2025 and beyond, we have to pull the aspects of the church that were positive and not those that were negative. Because we have to be honest as well, is that there were aspects of the church that we don't need any longer. They're overly judgmental and so on and so forth. But pulling those positive attributes where it comes to mentoring and feeding in and pouring in a positive way into the lives of those folks. And I love what we're doing at the school, because as Rod touches each one of his students and instills in them those foundational pieces, then that's the way he's going to touch a whole generation of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
By one at a time influencing his students.
So let me add something that I'm gonna add two things that was present in how we grew up. First, we had small communities or small groups. I think we need to get back to just a little bit, right? So if I go back to the 12, if I go back to what you're doing at the schoolhouse, that's a limited amount of number of individuals that are there in order to connect to. I think we need to get back into small groups. We need to get back into ministries, whether you're inside the church or if you're in the community, you need to get back to community development meetings in small groups, right? And so I think that is one way that we always pass down knowledge, right? Whether you are, if we looking all the way back, it was a round circle. You have the elder in the middle and the elder was talking small groups. Now, I can talk and now I got to, push play or push record. I think getting back to the small groups is something that we need to get back to. The second thing I think we need to get back to, I think we need to go back to being okay with being humble. In other words, quiet. Everybody in this room right now are quiet, right? You had to actually think about how to actually meet or for other people to meet you. I think we're far too often too loud in attempting to move people. And yes, the loudest individuals get the most play, but that doesn't necessarily mean the information that they're passing is providing them an opportunity to make a positive impact. You're always going to make an impact. So small groups is something I think we need to get back to, and also being moved in silence, but in strength. That's where I got. So we about to roll up out, man. I appreciate. Oh, go ahead. We got a couple seconds. Man.
I just wanted to add one more thing. When you brought up the small group, there's always a small group within that small group.
Yes, sir.
Jesus had his 12, but within his 12, he had his 3.
Amen.
He had Peter, James, and John.
Yep.
Those are his closest.
Those are his boys.
So those are his boys. So that small group, man, is so important. I love that you threw that out there.
100%. So get together, get in small groups. We're going to be back. So next week, I'm going to do my second solo show and put a bow on some things that need to be a bow on. So I'm going to go ahead and peace everybody out. Much love, and I'll catch you later. Peace.